I'm thinking of doing another testimony video. I was in there in the kitchen watching Spencer Smith. I love his channel. He's a little Baptist guy. And I was watching his channel on the five ridiculous things that Kenneth Copeland, does, something like that. It was it brought to my memory, because don't forget I'm 73 years old now and I'm 50 years in the School of Christ. But this brought to my memory an experience that I had in one of these churches, that I've been to. I have been in the church world, and believe me, it is a whirlwind. So, but anyway, in this particular church, I was so happy there. I thought I had finally found it. They were feeding us the Word of God. Every time we went, it was a message from the Word of God. And this was back in the day when they actually preached the Word of God over the pulpit to the sheep. They actually fed the sheep. They would give you a word that was just exactly what you needed to hear in your time of need, because you're at home going through the fiery trials, and persecution and everything else you can think of. So you really needed your church back in those days and the Word of God, because it was going to get you through, and it did. Well, what happened, and this was always one of my pet peeves, where the pastor would always begin to pass on the baton, and it always went to his son. Kind of like a king would have to pass on to his son, the throne. So, and that's kind of how it was in the churches. They passed the baton, the throne. They give the throne, of the pulpit to the son. And it's always that the son is never as spiritual or as insightful or as interested in feeding the sheep as the father is. So, in this particular instance, it was the same thing. Everything was wonderful, hunky-dory, until the son came. Now, the father was getting old, and now he's getting ready to pass the baton and give the pulpit over to his son. But the problem was that his son started to bring in, this was right when Kenneth Copeland came out. He was starting to get big, and his message was starting to sweep. And the son came into the church with this message. And it was no more, feeding the sheep, the Word of God over the pulpit. It was now always, this prosperity message, name it and claim it. So this is what I did. I thought I was at a church. I thought the people loved me. I thought I certainly loved them. I thought we were a family. And I thought that they cared about me, and and I thought, and there were many people I thought they respected my walk with God, and so what I did was I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter to the pastor, and I wrote it in the vein of a little sheep that is grazing on a beautiful, has been grazing and being fed beautiful pastures. But all of a sudden I noticed that I'm writing from the little sheep perspective. This little sheep is suddenly beginning to notice that the grass is getting not so green, not so nourishing. Now there's dirt showing up, there's rocks, it's getting harder to graze. We're going up a steep path, and it's starting to feel dangerous. It's starting to not feel comfortable, and this little sheep is starting to feel fear, in this new field where the son of the pastor is taking us. So I wrote the letter and I gave it to the pastor, but I also gave it to all of the congregation, because I'm thinking, I'm going to help them. I am going to, maybe some of them are feeling the same thing, maybe this needs to be a warning. And I tell you what, at the time, I felt anointed. I felt anointed to do that. I wrote the letter and I passed it out to everybody. And I'm thinking that, I've always thought that when you bring the Word of God to the pulpit and show them something in the Word of God and ask them to either explain it or maybe they're in error. Maybe the Word of God is right and they are in error. So so I'm thinking, I've always thought that they will accept the Word of God over, but they don't. They don't. So I thought that, it would be received very well, and they would, but of course I got kicked out for that letter. And it turned out I was the only one that actually left, because, of course I was kicked out, but I was made to leave. But But they all stayed. They all stayed, even though, the message was changing. So, and then this was years later. Years later, I ran into a little saint from that church. And you know what they said to me? That letter, it meant so much to them. So in a way, it was like God confirming that yes, that was him. That was him. It's not easy to be a seer, is it? So that's my testimony. Another kick out of church testimony. I had forgot all about that one, but I thought I would share it. God bless you.